Yes, it was a win in week 1 for Nebraska, but according to their coordinators, there's a lot to work on.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year.
All right, welcome. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. It is Wednesday. You have found the Locked On Nebraska podcast, still adjusting to the Thursday opener to get my days straight. The holiday weekend messed me up, but pretty quickly here, we're into September. We should be into a rhythm. It's Wednesday. Today is a day off from media access in Lincoln. On Tuesday, we heard from the offensive coordinator, Dana Holgorsen, the defensive coordinator, John Butler, several players, including Kyle Kunanen, the kicker. I don't know. I think that's the correct pronunciation. Dylan Raiola, that is definitely the correct pronunciation, the quarterback, and others who discussed moving forward from Nebraska's season opening 20-17 win against Cincinnati last Thursday in Kansas City. So, Connor, I thought the tone of the day on Tuesday was that the coordinators were fairly unhappy with the way that Nebraska went about getting to that victory. The outcome, of course, they're pleased. They're pleased to be 1-0, coming back home opener Saturday night at Memorial Stadium. But the way that they went about it, the method to get there, was disappointing. And both Dana Holgorsen and John Butler, as I think we'll continue to see throughout the season, as we have seen through the offseason, they don't mess around when they explain what they saw.
Yeah, they're pretty blunt, which is awesome for viewers and listeners of the press conferences. It's like, yeah, these guys are shooting you straight and telling you how it is. I'm so curious to see, because clearly on both sides of the ball there was frustration, and a lot has been talked about just the way Cincinnati was set up as a football team, and both the coordinators gave credit to them and sort of the way that they operated and the way that they were able to get things done. I'm just so fascinated to see, how much of that was them and how much of that what Nebraska's limitations are. And we probably won't find out until Michigan or post Michigan. As the season goes on, it'll be a collection of all that stuff. But yeah, after week 1, it was, I got the sense that it was probably pretty eye-opening for those guys. I think they thought that they would both be able to do a little bit more with their respective sides of the ball.
You know what's interesting is that we spent a lot of time in the offseason, and since we're doing podcasts every day, the subjects seem to repeat themselves. And how many times did we talk about the backup running back being a concern,
a lot,
the experience and depth on the defensive line being a concern? It was the left tackle being a concern because of uncertainty there. You have more than one. Do you really have one? And these are all the things that we're talking about on Monday and Tuesday after the opening game. So I guess the offseason conversation was relevant to what was actually happening with this football team. You start to wonder after a while, because talking to coaches and players in the spring and through fall camp, we continue to hear reassurances about no. The running, the backup, the depth at the running back, I've never felt better about it. Those are the kinds of things that the coaches were saying. And the D line is not a concern at all. We're going to be active and jumping around and making plays and moving people. Not an issue. And hey, left tackle, like we're set. Got this great transfer who came in. Love what Gunnar Gatula has done in coming back after the offseason. And perhaps a month down the road from now, all of the things and the talking points that the coaches emphasized through the offseason about these position groups, these perceived areas of weakness on the team or areas with questions on the team. I wouldn't call left tackle necessarily a weakness. Maybe we're going to feel good about all of it, but 1 week in, these are the red flashing lights.
Yeah, it's I think they did some things over the last couple of weeks to, Matt Rule heap some positivity on each of those groups and each of those, kind of positions of question, because as we often talk about on this podcast, he very much knows the narratives and he knows what people are talking about. Like you said, though, I don't find myself. So what are each of those positions sort of translate to? So like, I don't find myself particularly concerned about Nebraska's like ability to run the ball behind their offensive line. Like, I'll say that I'm not concerned about their offensive line as a whole. So they'll figure it out at left tackle. Fair. That's probably not that big of a concern for me. Running back is really interesting because, like, your lack of depth could end up having a real significant impact on your top guy, who you need desperately. So that is like, if Nebraska's not able to do that, figure that out, then they're going to have problems running the ball straight up. Like so that'll translate to that. And then I think it's a wait and see on their ability to stop the run, because we didn't get a good sample size on Thursday, if we're talking about the defensive line. So these are just like moving kind of targets, bullet points throughout the season, and you track them as we go.
Emmett Johnson has quickly vaulted to a very high spot on the list of players who most need to be protected. Like, where would where would an injury hurt the worst? Well, I mean, you can look at places. I would look at Sear, right, after one game. Although Nebraska does have proven depth in the secondary. Yeah, Emmett is probably number 2 behind Dylan Raiola. I would put Justin Evans pretty high on that list too, but that's a different conversation for a different day. One person who I don't think any of us would have had high on that list coming into the season, and we opened the show with this on Tuesday, talking about the big shoes to fill, and you had your reference to
big shoes, Succession.
Yes, Succession, yes. Was Jiren Bonner. And Rule was vocal about this on Monday. He emphasized what you would expect from the head coach, that the loss of somebody who was voted a single-digit jersey recipient was going to be significant in just the dynamic of the team, but that Jiren is, of course, going to be there while he undergoes ACL surgery and comes back and rehabs. He'll be there to support his teammates. It's not the same when a player is out. Then we heard from Dana Holgorsen and Dylan Raiola about this on Tuesday, and man, it continued to just be there was some deeper meaning to this than I believe I would have expected. I'm not downplaying. I wasn't downplaying the significance of Bonner, but he's a backup on the depth chart, and I don't think that's how they view him at all in terms of his significance to the team.
No, I don't think so either. Not only that, but he's a heart and soul guy too. Like that's really important. So it's I think I said this yesterday on the show, like, it's just difficult to find a guy that you trust to be able to do everything. And he did that. And with that, I'm sure and positive comes the trust of the people in the locker room and stuff like that. So yeah, like, it's a big loss all around. Maybe you don't see it reflected in the production just directly as much as, you would with a top wide receiver missing or something like that. But yeah, what he does is really impactful.
We've heard everybody who talks about him, they call him Wood, WOOD, because he brings the wood on the offensive side. Like, he's a physical tone setter on the offensive side, and Nebraska needs those players. So here's a clip from Dana Holgorsen on Tuesday talking about who can step up in that role, and then he gets into his critique of some things on the offense. His opening statement, or his first answer to a question on Tuesday, lasted 4 minutes. This is part of it.
Opportunity for a guy like Carter Nelson. It's opportunity for a guy like Ike Bozee. Those guys will eventually get there. Just it's our job to get them there as quick as possible. So not happy with 20 points. We had 9 possessions. It was a possession type game. The yards per play isn't what I expect. Explosive plays isn't what I expect. We're We're going to keep harping on that. Unfortunately, I didn't see it out there again today. You know, how do you fix that? One's the structure of the defense that we played and what the game plan was. You know, that allowed us to win. Okay. You know, two, we gotta do a better job of blocking downfield when we get people in the open field. We gotta do a better job of blocking downfield. We gotta do a better job of staying on our feet and making people miss. We made somebody miss 6 times out of 78 times. You know, it's not, or 64 times is when they had to tackle us. So, you know, we're gonna work hard on that. You know, the last drive, I was pretty aggressive with it, just based on not wanting to hand the ball off and punt in 3 plays. You know, so I was pleased with the 3 first downs and the 5 minutes of clock, but you know, it was unfortunate that we didn't finish the 4-minute offense at the end of the game. Clearly, I would have liked to possess the ball, get another first down, you know, game over, put another 2 minutes and 30 seconds on our time of possession, which was fantastic, and make it a little less dramatic at the end.
Yeah. So clearly, I think some concern about the explosive plays in the offense. Like you said,
for him to mention it like that about how it wasn't happening still on Tuesday at practice. I had to go back and listen to make sure that he was actually saying that, and he was. He's critiquing them in real time.
So that's pretty interesting, and I wonder if that's something that you know, they felt like they weren't going to be able to do well in fall camp. Obviously, he gave credit to Cincinnati as well. But yeah, I think them lacking the ability to crease runs. I'm talking about in the run game over the last, I don't know, decade, basically.
Since Amir Abdullah graduated.
That's kind of what he's talking about. I mean, their run game in Dana Holgorsen offenses have always been explosive. People think about the pass game like they've always been able to hit 15, 20-yard runs in good chunks. And I don't know. Nebraska may not have that ability this year. That might be a real concern.
You can see how much it hurts Dana to have to break down a game in which his team had to be tackled 64 times, only broke, what did he say, 6 tackles, and did not have a play longer than 24 yards. Just one play over 20. And Dana didn't like the one that went over 20 because on that one, Isaiah Hunter fell down.
Yeah,
after making the catch it was a nice catch.
He didn't have to jump though. He could have just stood there and walked in the end zone.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, we got guys tripping, you know, Barney, guys getting tackled by the shoestrings like all the time. And he also, last thought on this, he also, he said, I don't mean this to be critical or insulting of Cincinnati, but I've never seen a team that tackled as low as Cincinnati did. And he specifically referenced the play in the first part of the game where Barney got hurt. But it was the first drive. Barney played the whole game injured after that play where it looked like he got bent backwards. And it was a scary moment for about 2 seconds before he popped up because it looked like the kind of thing where you have a serious injury. And then Bonner's injury also happened on a low hit. You know, they're legal hits. So Dana just was surly, I would say, yesterday in every kind of way. And I got that vibe from Rule too on Monday. You know, he eventually loosened up and talked for a half hour like he does, but everybody among the coaches was kind of like that. So let's get to more of that and talk specifically about some of the critiques that Dana Holgorsen had in addition to what he said in that clip. And we'll get to John Butler coming up after this. Now a moment from Mazda, because Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. Mazda goes beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Awards than anyone else as of last month. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive
in every crossover SUV. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast on a Wednesday. Get your mailbag questions in for Friday. We are back, folks, in the mailbag. So send them our way, lockedonneb@gmail.com, or you could tweet at us, throw us a DM, whatever you may want. Daniel Holgorsen, let's continue this conversation for a couple minutes elsewhere on the offensive side of the ball. Like you said, generally just not afraid to say, hey, this stuff cannot happen. Talking about Elijah Pritchett false starting at the 1 yard line on a goal line play, which they would have been called for illegal formation, by the way. Anyway,
I have heard this. I have heard this rumor.
They had 5 guys in the backfield, which honestly, that changes the perception on everything. If they're called for illegal formation after the ball is snapped, and I guess he would have to not false start in order for that to happen. So,
Pritchett took the heat off of his OC. Honestly,
yeah,
that play call is a bit much. Like, let's just say it for what it is. It's first and goal at the 1. It's inside the 1, and you line up and
ram it up. Like they were just gonna, ram it ahead, but
you line up in a formation that has 3. It's a totally non-traditional formation with 3 spread across the backfield. And then one of the receivers or a tight end made a mistake and didn't have his foot on the line of scrimmage. So they would have been called, if the officials saw it, they would have been called for an illegal formation had Pritchett not jumped. That they don't need to be in that formation on first down at the 1 yard line. Like, why don't you save that for like 4th down or 3rd down at the 1 yard line? I think that's overthinking it in that moment, but
probably a little cute. I'm with you. Yeah. Probably a little cute. Didn't necessarily need to do that, but I think out of it was probably just window dressing. They were probably just going to ram it straight up the middle and have somebody jump over the pile or something.
I think so. Just line up and run it. Do the tush push there. They did that twice successfully, or just hand it to Emmett and go between the tackles.
Yeah. So he wasn't afraid. Holgorsen wasn't to get some people, give people a public kick in the butt here, whether it be Pritchett or Mosey or Mackay Nelson in the backfield. Certainly not afraid to say, hey, look, man, these guys got to get it going. Otherwise we got problems.
He said this about Mosey in his appearance in the game, and I'm not sure if it was entirely directed at Isaiah or if it was more at the way that the play set up when he came in the game. But he said, we handed the ball to Isaiah twice early, and it didn't look good. He's still trying to figure things out. And then later on, in talking about the effectiveness of both Mosey and Mackay Nelson as backups, and this was a point of contention on Monday with Matt Rule, Holgorsen said, I don't care who we play this week, but that has to change.
Yeah. I mean, he's right. I get the sense, like you said, hearing from all these coordinators now, we'll hear from Butler in a second. They were, it might be a tough week going into Akron here, and then we'll see what happens against Akron.
Yeah, I think they're coaching them hard right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And you can. It's early, and you have roast beef steak coming up the next 2 weeks. So yeah, get after them a little bit.
So Butler, before we kind of tie this together and talk about the coordinators and their mission this week, both of them, and like what kind of common thread there might be. Butler was asked on Tuesday about the play of the defensive line, which contributed just 1 TFL. That was from Williams Winery. No sacks, limited impact overall from the players up front for Nebraska. Here's what the DC had to say.
Not a thinking man's position. It's a get off the ball, create a new line of scrimmage, get off blocks, make tackles, be disruptive. I think sometimes at times we were a little bit too fit oriented, meaning like, am I in the right place? Or maybe the processing wasn't going as fast, but your D-line has got to be a bunch of guys that just freaking go and think about things later. And I don't mean play reckless. I'm just talking about getting off the ball, creating a new line of scrimmage, and I think that's something we're going to be preaching with all of our front guys from now until the final game of the season.
That is an interesting quote because, I mean,
Just freaking go.
yeah, it's. I mean, you do. Not that it's a quote thinking man's position, but
Right.
like there is some integrity there. You have to be pretty disciplined and you have to be pretty focused. I think to play on the defensive side of the ball, especially against a quarterback that can hurt you with his legs the way he did. But I guess John Butler just wants him to just wreck stuff up front and think about things later, which fits into the identity and the idea of what you want your how you've designed your defense. You know, just take the offensive lineman out of it and let the linebackers go make plays. That's generally kind of the idea of what they're going for. But I don't know. I don't think that served them very well. And I thought they were slow on Thursday anyway, especially right out of the gate. I thought they were just maybe a little
reactive.
Yeah. So
I think that's what Winery was doing. He was just playing. He hasn't been around this defense long enough to maybe know every intricacy. And he just went out there and played and said, okay, I'm an athlete. I'm in my hometown. I'm going to try to get after the quarterback. And it wasn't like he was dominant, but he was the best guy. He was the most active member of the defensive line. And I think we'll see that as the season goes on. Like, I think Williams, Winery, and I think Keona Davis too, when he gets comfortable, will be players whose level of competitiveness does not go down when the competition goes up. Like the way that they play against Akron and Houston Christian is probably a good indicator of the way they're going to play against Michigan State and USC. Like they're going to face better players in the Big Ten, but I think those guys are equipped to face better players and might actually play better against better players for whatever the reason might be.
Because they're like physically, able to. Now, in these next two, they will have such a great physical advantage in especially
throw people
week.
Around.
Not Akron, Houston Christian. I mean, they're going to have such a great physical advantage where it might be a little bit difficult to tell. And that's where I think you want to be, you want to think about your technique and not so much the results and stuff like that. So I don't know. They keep an eye on that one. Clearly they want to do something a little bit different on the defensive front, especially than it has been over the last couple of years. We're just, I think there's probably a little bit of a transition period, right? It's a different kind of style than it was a year ago, and it's new players. So maybe this week it'll look crisper just with guys kind of thinking less, to Butler's point. I think that's what Butler was trying to say. Like, let's be a little bit quicker to the football, because I certainly noticed that in the first half or so of the game. But as he said, you can't be reckless. There's a really fine line there, and I'm curious to see how that plays out.
You know who that might cater to here on the D line in the next 2 weeks? And if they find something with this guy, then and he builds confidence, then you put him out there in the Big Ten and see how it goes. Is Cade Petschak, the true freshman from North Dakota, because I don't think there's any bit of hesitance on his part. Like, that's the reason that he stood out in preseason camp after being a late arrival. Like, he wasn't even one of the many freshmen and transfers who came in the winter and had spring practice. He just got here and just said, I'm just going. I'm gonna work. And I mean, is he like physically, is he there? Is he going to hold up against Michigan's offensive line? Probably not. Like, you can't play him 30 reps, or certainly probably not even in this game, but put him out there and see what he does. Just go, man. And because that's what the defensive coordinator wants.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, let's finish up this conversation and maybe look ahead a little bit when we return on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. But first, a word from our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook, where the NFL season is, let's just take out the word almost. It's here, starting tomorrow on Thursday. FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Imagine being like Scrooge McDuck and having $300 worth of bonus bets to use at your disposal on week 1 of the NFL. And you could do it all before Sunday. Remember, there's games Thursday and Friday in the NFL. If you do a Eagles and Chiefs parlay, 2 favorites, Eagles -8.5, Chiefs -3 right now, you could parlay that to plus 266 at the moment. So maybe that's an option for you on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's just one of the many reasons why I love using the FanDuel Sportsbook. And best of all, it's quick and easy and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sunday. So if you're ready to play, go right now. Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com and getting started. That's FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet today. And a word from Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether they're 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money is here for you. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally, feel in control of your money without ever even touching a spreadsheet. Music to many people's ears. Monarch can help you identify that you're not saving as much as you thought as well. Discover forgotten accounts from previous jobs or increase your savings rates. All of it is possible with Monarch. Bring your financial world together in the hub here with Monarch Money. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com and your browser for half off your first year. 50% off. Once again, 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege.
Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you on this Wednesday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. All right, the question is, what is Nebraska going to do about it? We've heard from both coordinators. We know that they're unhappy with certain aspects of the way that the season opening game went. You would not expect that they were going to be totally satisfied. In fact, if we talked about this a week ago and predicted how they were going to feel on the Tuesday after the opener, I think it wouldn't have been all that much different than what they sounded like yesterday. We did predict the outcome of the game to be a bit different, but that wasn't going to satisfy Matt Rule. It wasn't going to satisfy Dana Holgorsen or John Butler. What are they going to do about it? What are they going to do at running back? What are they going to do at left tackle? What are they going to do on the defensive line? Connor, we've heard talk like this in the recent past, often from coordinators and head coaches, usually after losses. And sometimes we've seen steps taken. Other times we've seen the status quo. We've heard the coordinators talk during the week, and then we've watched them go out and coach basically the same game on the subsequent Saturday. John Butler and Dana Holgorsen do not strike me as status quo guys. Neither did Tony White, who was at Nebraska the last 2 years. If something needed to be fixed, Tony White wanted to fix it and was aggressive in fixing it, but it didn't always happen the way you would have liked to have seen and as quickly as you would have liked to have seen. So what can we expect this week and next Saturday at Memorial Stadium as a result of what we heard on Tuesday?
Well, I would imagine Akron will do this. I mean, they'll I don't know what style of defense they play or, what
they only give 10 points. So it's not, their offense is putrid, but the defense isn't bad.
That's true. But I don't know what style they're playing, if they're trying to, hem you in and keep you in front like Cincinnati was or whatever. Nebraska has to. So, but I assume that Akron will show a lot of that. They will make Nebraska take the layup if they can't run the ball. Even you have to run the ball. The way to get them out of, sitting three high safeties back there and making sure nobody could get behind you is you either throw it over the top of them, which Nebraska doesn't have the killer speed to be able to just run right by them, or run the football between the tackles, inside the box. And so Nebraska has to prove that it could do that and that it could hit a couple in the run game. I think that's first and foremost.
I could swear I heard Dana Holgorsen in the spring talk about how Isaiah Hunter was capable of taking the top off of a defense, and he saw that transfer from Cal run straight by corners in Nebraska's practice. And I've heard Ja'Cory Barney be considered the fastest player on the team, and he runs 23 miles an hour. And all right, they've got guys who can run. I think sometimes Nebraska gets sold short a bit here in this early part of the season for the kind of athleticism that it has at the wide receiver spots. Are you telling me that if you put Carter Nelson out there and say, go beat that linebacker off the ball and get open down the field? Remember when Nebraska used to throw deep to its tight ends? When was the last time we saw that?
I don't know.
And I get it, it's a different offense. Yeah, it's a different offense. And like you could do that on play action when they were so deadly in the run game and the tight ends would just get open because nobody even tried to cover them. But can Heinrich Harburg, he's fast. He's really fast. Get open. Get a mismatch and get open down the field. Dylan's got the arm to hit those guys. So I think there's a lot more that they have to offer. What are they going to do? I push the envelope. That's the thing. And Dana Holgorsen and John Butler seem like the kind of coaches, the kind of coordinators, play callers who are going to push the envelope. If they walk out there on the field, run out there on the field on Saturday night, and some of the same things are cropping up in the first part of the game that we saw last Thursday, I think they'll make changes. I think they'll make personnel changes because now Nebraska, for the first time under Matt Rule, has the depth to be able to make personnel changes and say, if you're not getting it done the way that we want you to get it done, then somebody else is going to go in and play. And that's the way it has to be in these next 2 weeks because they have to be better on September.
Yeah, but at a certain point, you're Nebraska has to prove that even against Akron and Houston Christian, Nebraska has to prove that it can, that it could crease a couple runs in between the tackles. They need to show that. And otherwise it's going to be really difficult because, you talk about running by guys. It's one thing to run by a guy, but you're running by 2 and 3 guys, so that makes it difficult. And the safety who's just sitting back there waiting for you has a bit of a head start. So I think that's how teams will play Nebraska until they prove that they can get things going in the run game. And that's why the backup running back thing is just so vital, because it can't be just Emmett. I have my own concerns about Emmett and his ability to break long runs. I think he's generally pretty good in short area and stuff like that. Like I think he could turn 4 yards into 7 yards, and he does a pretty good job at that, getting off the first guy. But we rarely see him turn 10 yards into 60 yards, right? So that might not be in Nebraska's game, unless they feel like they could find a diamond in the rough with one of those 2 other guys.
We mentioned Marty Brown, the Omaha product from North Dakota State at Miami, who had a nice game against Notre Dame on Sunday night. Dante Dowdell ran for 140 plus for Kentucky in his opening game. Nebraska could use him right now too, but he's not here. That's neither here nor there at this point. All right, some players on the stage Tuesday. Dylan Raiola, Teddy Prohaska, humorous. Teddy Prohaska told the story about the alternate uniform video reveal and how he was asked to dress up in farmer's clothing, remarking then Teddy did that he's from Elkhorn, Nebraska, and doesn't own a lot of farmer's clothing. So he drove the truck that they used in the cornfield to unveil those videos. Good to see Teddy back. He's just a good representative of Nebraska football. And he made a comment. I'm paraphrasing him here. I don't have the quote in front of me, but he made a comment on Tuesday that he said that he told his dad that there's no place in the country that he'd rather be injured than Nebraska. He's had 3 season-ending injuries. Yeah, that's not what you think. That's not how you dream up your career coming out of high school. Man, I sure would love to go to Nebraska because that's a great place to be injured.
Yeah, but put it on the recruiting flyer. There's no better place in the country to be hurt.
But that's the reality of the sport. Like players do get hurt. Look at Thomas Fidone and his career and how he benefited from what Nebraska had to offer in recovery and rehab and where he's at right now on a 53-man roster to start the NFL season this weekend. So Teddy, I don't know that Teddy takes that path. I don't know that we'll see. Can Teddy hold up for a 12-game season? Is Teddy the right size to play in the NFL? Maybe. I mean, he's a big guy for sure, maybe too big. But it's good to see him back, and you hope that he's able to turn that one game at right tackle where he played the whole game on Thursday into a season of staying healthy.
He's really important, Mitch. Like, I don't know if they don't figure something out at left tackle if one guy doesn't step up. I'm just saying Teddy's really important to the way he
because
played
he's stability.
Yeah,
he's stability over there on the right side, and I think they'll figure something out at left tackle, and I think it'll be Elijah Pritchett. Like, I just continue to like discard. And I'm sorry, I just continue to discard the idea of Gunnar Gatula being Nebraska's left tackle, and that is totally unfair to him because he's been a good player at that spot. But when Pritchett wasn't committing false start penalties at the 1 yard line on Thursday, I thought he was pretty good on the left side. And
he was certainly good in the run game. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I do think he's ultimately Nebraska's best option there in the Big Ten. And I think there's a big place for Gunnar Gatula in this offense too. And it's probably as a swing tackle. That's how I see it. He can play the left and the right side and be somebody who comes in the game and maybe gets just as many reps as Pritchett and Prohaska. But best case scenario is that Pritchett uses these 2 weeks to put that stuff behind him, and he's out there as a reliable player that they can depend on in short yardage, passing downs, run, everything.
I'll say this one more thing. This whole rotation thing at tackle, I was thinking about it yesterday. That was so weird. They need to not do that. Just pick one, okay? I think Matt Rule would agree with me. He said it in his press conference on Monday. He's like, "This is not going to last very long." They got stuff on tape. It's great. Whatever. Pick one and go with it. They need some stability there.
Yeah. All right, totally agree. Lots to get to in our Thursday show. We'll be back, and then Friday, of course, with the mailbag as we move along in the week and preview Nebraska, Akron, 6:30 p.m. Big Ten Network, I believe, yes, is on the call this week.
Nice. Let's go.
All right.
Cool.
It is this week and every week a big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college stars Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.